Welcome back to Fox 7 News at 6. I'm Alex Michelson. More now on that election of Pope Leo XIV.
Questo è il primo saluto del Cristo risorto.
That's his address to the crowd at St. Peter's Square, telling them that peace be with you. He delivered his first public speech in Spanish and Italian, notably not in English, the first language he spoke. 69-year-old from Chicago was elected on the fourth ballot after 2 days of voting. As Cardinal Robert Prevost, who lived in Peru, the Pope expressed criticism of the Trump administration's immigration policies. The Cardinal's X account included a rebuttal to Vice President Vance's interpretation of a Catholic teaching he used to defend the Trump administration's deportation policies, calling it, quote, wrong. However, there was no hint of any animosity when President Trump was asked about the new Pope today.
Have the Pope from the United States of America, that's a great honor. That's a great honor.
Sir, has your message voice? Sir, has your...
I'm watching and he said, he's from America. I said, that's great.
Mark Shriver is an expert on the papacy. Here he is with his family and Pope Francis. He also wrote a book on Pope Francis called Pilgrimage, My Search for the Real Pope Francis. He also knows a thing or two about the intersection of church and politics. His uncle, John F. Kennedy, was the country's first Catholic president. And tonight, we have the Vatican's first American Pope. Mark Shriver joins us now. Mark now runs the Don Bosco Cristo Rey School, a Catholic school near Washington, D.C. Mark, thanks for being with us.
Thanks for having me on. It's great to talk to you.
So what does this mean to you personally, a pope born in America?
Well, I think if you asked Vegas what the odds of that happening, you would have made a lot of money in the last 24 hours, right? I mean, all the gossip, all the rumor mills had the Pope coming from the margins, from the periphery, not from America. There's too much concentrated power, too much money in America. So it's an amazing shock to, I think, everybody, definitely to me. And this guy clearly is from Chicago. I guess he's a Chicago White Sox fan. But more importantly, he was a bishop in Peru, and he lived in Peru. He speaks Spanish, obviously, and Italian and English. So I think when Pope Francis made him a cardinal, he was reaching out to a man who had experience on the margins, on the peripheries, who were not in the centers of power like so many other people are.
You know, he's been critical in the past of J.D. Vance on Twitter. We know that J.D. Vance met with Pope Francis right before he died. What message do you think the cardinals were trying to send by electing him? And is there maybe a little bit of a political undertone with this?
You know, having studied Pope Francis for 3 years and having written that book on him, we in America, I think, want to put people in a box. They're either Democrats or Republicans, progressives, independents, conservatives. I don't think the Catholic Church looks at it that way. I think, when he got up on the balcony there, the first thing he said is, peace be with you. And then he has this great quote right after that, God loves everyone unconditionally. Evil will not prevail. So I think he looks at a different definition of love than what the vice president talked about a couple of weeks ago. And it's a radical perspective of love. Jesus said, love your enemies. And this is what he's talking about, unconditional love. He loves everybody. God loves everybody, whether you're rich or poor, black or white, gay or straight. It doesn't matter. And I think that's the message that the Catholic hierarchy wants to get out. That's the message of Jesus. So I don't think they're saying, hey, let's stick it to, President Trump or somebody else in power across the world. I think they're trying to get the message out, this radical message of Jesus, that love is unconditional, and that Jesus talks about when they ask him, your mother and brothers are here. Jesus said, who are my mothers and brothers? Everybody are my mothers and brothers. It's a different definition of family and love. And I think that's what the message that this Pope Leo XIV is trying to get out, and what Pope Francis tried to get out as well.
Yeah, and Pope Francis, as you mentioned, appointed him as a cardinal. What lessons do you think and hope that the new Pope takes from the old Pope, Francis, who you studied so closely?
Well, I think, Pope Francis' motto was around mercy. It was about getting the Catholic Church to the margins, to the sinners. To those who don't have power. He had, I have a quote on my desk here about Pope Francis saying, you got to get your shoes muddy. You got to get off the beaten path and get out to the peripheries. And that's where, obviously he's from Chicago, as I said, but he's also spent, decades in Peru. And I hope he takes that message of bringing the voice of the poor and the powerless to Rome and across the world. He talks about unity. That's his motto. Pope Leo XIV, his motto is, although we Christians are many, in the one Christ we are one. So he's talking about unity. He's talking about peace. He's talking about unconditional love as well. And, he's named after Leo XIII, was the leader of Catholic social teaching. He was the Pope who brought that forward about the emphasis on it was okay for unions and the importance of a good job, a job that paid a living wage. So these are progressive ideas, I think, that are out there. And I think this is what Pope Leo is really focused on.
There's an argument that before today, the most important American Catholic was your uncle, who was the first president who was Catholic. Now, you could certainly argue that the Pope, born in America, is the most important American Catholic ever. How do you think this changes the Catholic Church in this country? In our city of Los Angeles, we have the largest archdiocese of all. What do you think this means for the movement of American Catholicism?
I think it's a shot of energy. I mean, he is from Chicago. He's a White Sox fan. I mean, maybe he doesn't like the Dodgers or the Angels. I mean, it's great. He's a real human being. And he's obviously had diverse experiences living in Rome, living in Peru. I think it's great. I'm super excited about it. I'm sure your listeners are as well. And to get that message out about unity, about unconditional love for everyone. It doesn't matter whether you're an American, doesn't matter whether you're a Republican or a Democrat. The Pope Leo XIV is talking about unconditional love. And that's really exciting. I mean, it's just powerful and great.
And he's had to learn a lot about patience and unconditional love if you're a White Sox fan. It's been a minute.
Yeah, they haven't had a good couple of years.
That teaches you some suffering.
Yeah, it does. Long time suffering.
Yeah,
maybe that's one of the crosses he's got to bear.
Yeah, being a Dodger fan, you get a lot of joy these days.
Yeah, but he's on the margins. He's not with the rich and famous out there in Dodger land.
Yeah.
We're all jealous of your success out there, especially when you took Mookie Betts from the Red Sox. Yeah. But here's a Pope that, has that connection and is talking about exciting things, I think, and I hope he'll attract lots of folks to the faith and to unconditional love.
Mark Shriver, thank you so much for the good work that you do each and every day, inspiring people. Really, really enjoyed this conversation.
Thank you very much. A real pleasure.